In these offices in Oslo, you will find one of the most extraordinary media outlets in Europe today. The newspaper Klassekampen, which literally means class struggle, was founded as the Norwegian Maoist Party's official newspaper in 1969. But in contrast to other publications of its kind, it did not die away with the radicalism of the 70s. Quite on the contrary, it grew and is today one of Norway's most important newspapers, with readership of 90,000 and a daily circulation of 15,000 copies. Hei, velkommen. How come Norway actually got a daily newspaper called Klassekampen, literally class struggle?
Well, the first part of the story, I think, is well known in a lot of countries. Young activists, in our case of the Marxist-Leninist type, want propaganda and agitation forum. And this was a sort of classical party-building paper. And in 1973 it was developed into a weekly and got a wider readership. And as early as 1977 it was introduced with a weak economic basis, but still with a lot of activist support.
You were central in the survival of the newspaper when it was under party control until it became independent. Was this an organic process, or was it a process of fighting, or what was it?
Well, it was definitely not organic, because it was a question of developing a typical political Marxist propaganda-oriented newspaper into a professional news-oriented and commentary newspaper. And it took several years, it took a decade, I would say, to live up to these, what we tried to do concerning the professionalization. But because of that, because a gradual development of editorial independence, we got new types of readers.
But when did this happen, that people outside the leftist movement start to read Klassekampen?
I think the answer to that is the 1980s. Because the paper became more professional, both concerning the genres, development of muckraking journalism in different areas, especially concerning Norwegian economy, foreign policy, but also because we tried to be a sort of serious cultural paper, literary paper.
Du ser at dere prioriterer noen andre vinkler enn andre medier. Hvilke vinkler?
Ja, så det er en hel rekke temaer som vi er opptatt av, og som veldig få andre er opptatt av. Vi er for eksempel veldig opptatt av vår sikkerhetspolitiske forankring, altså vårt lojalitetsforhold til USA, krigene i Irak, Afghanistan, nå i Midtøsten, hele spørsmålet om Ukraina, Russland, EU. I norsk innenrikspolitikk så er vi opptatt av Norges tilknytning til EU gjennom EØS. Og i vår nasjonale politikk så er på en måte alle spørsmål om likhet, fordeling av rikdom mellom overklassen og vanlige arbeidstakere, næringslivsspørsmål, rasisme. Altså det er en rekke saker hvor vi både tar opp andre typer saker, og vi er opptatt av andre problemstillinger ved samfunnet enn andre aviser kan være.
Do you think international news and foreign policy is important for Klassekampen's readership?
Yes, I would say that. Historically, we've been covering anti-colonial struggles, anti-imperialist struggles, women's liberation issues, of course workers' movements and peasant movement, but mainly in the global south.
And what would then the difference be, more concrete, between Klassekampen and other media?
Our role is basically to show that the story is not that simple. And to bring some nuance into the conflicts that we cover. While the other media are simplifying the story, I think our role is to show that things aren't that simple.
And if you were looking for a point of pride, something you took pride in from what you've been doing now in 4 years as an editor and also as a journalist before that, what would that be?
I would think that debunking some myths. For instance, the Libya war in 2011, where I think almost all other outlets in the Norwegian media supported the war because it had a UN mandate. We were against the war. And I think we were right if you look at what's the situation in Libya today. But at that time, we were criticized and labeled as Gaddafi apologists.
In your daily work as a journalist with Klassekampen, how does this being a left-wing media outlet in Norway reflect itself?
We who work here and also our readers are interested in the main issues that are important for the left wing. Which parties, who is running the main parties, what are the main discussions.
And this being a political newspaper but also being journalistic, how do you juggle these two things, these two balls at the same time?
As I see it, those two things go perfectly well together. As long as you are willing to and able to also tap into and focus on things that might be difficult for the left wing. We always think that our readers are mainly, not solely, but mainly they are interested in or on the left side and of politics. And if we should only give them things they already know, mean, feel, then we would also be boring for them.
How would you say Klassekampen is covering culture?
I think we cover much of culture that other newspapers also cover, such as films and books and theatre, but I think we tend to ask the question, what is the important debate or what is the important issue at stake? So some of the material might be the same as you would find in other newspapers, but I think we tend to ask other questions perhaps. For us, it's important to make art and culture communicate with the public and the political debate. So the question, what is the ideological import in a book? What is the important issue at stake in a theatre play? We are much more, I hope we are much more brave in that sense, that we dare to ask those questions. We also try to raise the big debates that we find in Norwegian literature, for instance, which could be anything from nationalism to immigration, or even more artsy debates for that sake.
If you were looking for kind of a point of pride, something that you pride yourself in from your work in Klassekampen, what would that be?
For the culture section this year, we have expanded our art coverage, which is really going against the stream because criticism is really under pressure in other newspapers, and we have been able to extend it and to have more essays, to have more reviews, and that generates a lot of debate and a lot of engagement from our readers.
Klassekampen has been the fastest growing newspaper in Norway the past years. And when other media fall, Klassekampen, with its stunning name and its open socialist platform, has kept to its 6 days a week paper strategy. They give almost nothing out for free, and they keep insisting that culture, international politics, debate and journalism based on an open leftist position is not just possible, but the right strategy.